The interview lasted less than 12 minutes. When Ethan Carter walked out of the conference room, he already knew the answer. He hadn't gotten the job. At 35 years old, Ethan had learned to recognize rejection before anyone said a word. As a single dad raising his 8-year-old daughter Emma, every interview felt like his last chance to rebuild their lives. The receptionist offered him a polite smile. "We'll call you." Ethan returned the smile, though he knew those 3 words usually meant goodbye. He picked up his worn backpack and quietly walked toward the elevator. Inside the interview room, the hiring managers were already discussing the next candidate. "He doesn't have enough executive experience. Good personality, wrong resume. We need someone stronger." At the head of the table sat the company's billionaire CEO, Victoria Hayes. She had remained silent throughout the interview, carefully observing Ethan more than his resume. Something about him felt different. As Ethan reached the lobby, he noticed an elderly janitor struggling to lift a heavy box of office supplies that had fallen across the floor. Without hesitation, Ethan placed his backpack down. "Let me help." The old man smiled gratefully. "You don't have to." "I know, but I want to." Within minutes, Ethan had picked up every scattered folder, carried the heavy boxes into the storage room, and even fixed the broken wheel on the janitor's cleaning cart using a small screwdriver from his backpack. The old man looked amazed. "You've done this before. My dad taught me. Always leave a place better than you found it." Neither of them realized someone was quietly watching from the second-floor balcony. Victoria. She folded her arms. "He thinks he already failed. Wamaisa mi alto." Yet he's helping anyway. One executive standing beside her shrugged. "He's just being nice." Victoria slowly shook her head. "No, most people are only kind when someone important is watching. Line eft me leaves no one is." A few minutes later, Ethan thanked the janitor and walked toward the building's front entrance. Outside, he called his daughter. "Hi, sweetheart. Daddy, did you get the job?" Ethan looked down at the sidewalk. "I don't think so." There was a brief silence. Then Emma replied cheerfully, "That's okay. You always tell me God closes one door so a better one can open." Ethan smiled despite the disappointment. "You're right. I'll keep trying." He ended the call and started walking toward the bus stop. Behind him, Victoria suddenly stood up. Without another word, she hurried toward the elevator. Her executives looked confused. "Ma'am?" She ignored them. The elevator felt painfully slow. As soon as the doors opened, she almost ran across the lobby. Employees stared in disbelief. They had never seen the billionaire CEO running. She pushed through the revolving doors and looked down the crowded street. Ethan was already halfway to the bus stop. "Mr. Carter," she shouted. He turned around, surprised. She continued running toward him in her high heels. Cars slowed. Pedestrians stopped. Even security guards watched in confusion. The billionaire CEO finally reached him, slightly out of breath. Ethan looked puzzled. "I'm sorry, did I forget something?" Victoria smiled. "No, you forgot nothing." "I did." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked directly into his eyes. "I made a mistake in that interview, and I'd like a second chance." Ethan looked at Victoria in complete disbelief. "I'm sorry." "What?" Victoria caught her breath and smiled. "I said I made a mistake. I judged your resume without understanding the man behind it." Ethan remained silent. The busy sidewalk around them seemed to disappear. Victoria continued. "I've interviewed hundreds of people. They all talked about promotions, titles, and salaries. But after leaving this building, you helped an elderly janitor. You fixed his broken cart, and you expected nothing in return." Ethan shrugged. He needed help. Victoria smiled. "Exactly. My executives walked past him. My managers ignored him. But the man who supposedly failed the interview stopped." She paused before asking, "Do you know why our company became successful?" Ethan shook his head. "Because we build software?" Victoria laughed softly. "No, because we build trust. And trust begins with character." Just then, one of the executives hurried outside. "Ma'am, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Victoria didn't even look back. "It can wait." The executive stood frozen. Nobody had ever heard the CEO postpone a board meeting. Victoria turned back to Ethan. "I'd like to offer you the position." Ethan blinked. "The maintenance supervisor job?" She smiled. "No." Ethan looked confused. "Then what job?" I want you to become our employee relations manager. His eyes widened. I've never done that before. I know. I don't even have the qualifications. Victoria nodded. You don't. Several executives exchanged worried glances. One finally stepped forward. Ma'am, with respect. He doesn't have a management degree. Victoria looked at him calmly. Neither did my father when he started this company. The executive fell silent. She continued, I can teach someone management. I cannot teach integrity. Then she looked back at Ethan. I've spent years hiring people with perfect resumes. Some of them later betrayed this company. But today, I watched a man choose kindness when he believed no one important was watching. That's the person I want representing this company. Ethan lowered his head. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Victoria smiled. Say yes. He hesitated. I have one condition. The executives looked shocked. The CEO laughed. You haven't even accepted yet. I know, but if I work here, I need to leave every afternoon at 4. Victoria frowned slightly. Why? My daughter. I promised her I'd always be the one waiting outside school. I've already broken enough promises in life. I'm not breaking that one. For a long moment, Victoria said nothing. Then she smiled wider than before. Mr. Carter, that isn't a condition. It's exactly why I'm hiring you. She turned toward human resources. Create a flexible schedule. If any parent in this company needs time for their children, they'll have it. The HR director nodded immediately. Employees standing nearby quietly applauded. Some even wiped tears from their eyes. Victoria extended her hand. Welcome to the company. Ethan shook it. Thank you. 3 months later, employee satisfaction reached the highest level in company history. Turnover dropped. Morale improved. People no longer came to work just for a paycheck. They came because they felt valued. One afternoon, Victoria walked past Ethan's office and saw a framed drawing on his desk. It showed a little girl holding her father's hand beneath the words, "My daddy never stopped trying." Victoria smiled to herself. That day she realized the company hadn't been transformed by a billionaire CEO. It had been transformed by a single dad who refused to let failure define him, and whose greatest qualification was the example he set every single day,